I'm going to preface this by saying that I have always been a dog person, my dog being the loudest one here. But, you know, I didn't really get to know cats until I got married and my husband brought one into my life. So this is the lens through which the story comes, but hold on. I am going to...
Pepper is preaching.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Okay. That's better. So there was a time back in ancient Israel where there were 10 pets. There were all kinds of pets. There were dogs and cats, maybe a guinea pig and a rabbit, and they were hungry. And they were out looking for food. And these 10 pets came across Jesus. And Jesus, doing what Jesus does, Jesus fed them. And the pets went on. But yet one of the cats, and the female cat, the least friendly of all pets, came back, and she found Jesus, and she did the thing where she rubbed against Jesus's legs, and she stopped, and she purred, and she meowed, and she let Jesus pet her and did not bite him. And she showed her thanks and appreciation for Jesus feeding her, where none of the other pets did. You would certainly expect a dog to show more gratitude on, gosh, I know, that's right, dogs. We expect dogs to have more gratitude, don't we, Pepper? But that wasn't the dog. It was the cat. And that is the point of this story, is that the person who showed, of the 10 lepers, the one who showed gratitude, the one who came back to Jesus, was the Samaritan. And as we remember from the parable of the Good Samaritan, the Samaritans were the distrusted group in ancient Israel. They were the people who you didn't expect to say thank you. They were the people that you didn't expect to help in a crisis. So it's the Samaritan who Jesus says, your faith has made you well. And it's a reminder that nobody is outside the bounds of Jesus's healing, that nobody is outside the bounds of God's love. Even that cat that bites you when you pet it, nobody is outside the bounds. But I want to just take a minute and talk about the phrase, your faith has made you well. Because as a healthcare chaplain, which I will probably always be, at least in spirit, a healthcare chaplain, that phrase, your faith has made you well, kind of makes me cringe a little bit, because it brings up memories of someone with pretty bad metastatic lung cancer who was making plans to go out of state to visit a faith healer. Or it makes me think of someone with end-stage Parkinson's who was just sure if he prayed enough that God would remove his Parkinson's disease. And certainly the idea of faith healing has been pretty harmful in our world. This idea that if we just believe enough, our diseases can be cured. But there's a difference between cure and healing. Even in our modern medicine world, we have very few cures for diseases. But there's a lot of healing that can happen. And when I worked as a hospice chaplain, I saw lots of healing happen, even when the person died of their disease. I saw families that seemed to have just irreparable rifts come together. I saw siblings who hadn't spoken to each other in years join together to care for their dying parent. I saw a man who devoted his life to caring for others so much that he often neglected himself and wouldn't accept care for himself. I saw at the end of his life him accept care and really live into being someone who was cared for instead of being the carer. I've seen lots and lots of healing. And maybe that's why I have such a belief that nobody is beyond healing, that nobody is beyond being touched by God's love and grace. We've had this conversation in my family recently about where some of my siblings, actually all of my siblings and all of our spouses, say, this person is too old to change. This person is beyond the scope of being able to modify their sometimes abusive behavior. But I can't say that because I've seen it. I've seen it happen. I can't say that because of age or because of whatever that someone can't change. Now, it might not be easy. They might have to work a little bit. They might have to say, I'm sorry. They might have to really learn to forgive themselves, which is hard work too, as we know. But nobody is beyond God's reach. Even someone who is deep in the depths of addiction, they're not beyond the reach of God. Even the most horrible person that we can think of in the world isn't beyond the reach of God's love, the reach of healing. Every single person on this earth is within the reach, and it might not be easy. We might have to do a little bit of internal work. We might have to go to therapy. But we're all able to be healed. And that's the message today, that we're all able to be healed, that no one is beyond God's touch. We believe so strongly that God's touch is even available to our pets, that our pets even need God's healing touch. So what does it mean to live in the world as someone whose faith has healed us? Because it's one thing to believe that we can all be healed, and it's another thing to walk through the world believing that our wounds can be healed, that humanity can be healed. And that means walking in the world believing that things can be better, because there's nothing that's going to make us work for change if we don't believe that the change can happen. So I want you all to leave today believing that you can receive healing for all of those still rough places that we have. I want you to believe that the person that you love, the person that is in your life, that family member that drives you nuts, that they can also receive healing, that it's possible. You might need to set some boundaries, but it is possible for people to be touched by God. And I want you to believe that the world can receive God's healing, that it is possible for people to be fed, that it is possible for people to have health care, that it is possible for us to see past our divisions and to love one another, because our faith has made us well.